I'm Corbett Wall with DV Auction, here with your feeder flash for Wednesday, May the 12th, brought to you in part by VitaFirm Heat. Check out VitaFirm's line of heat minerals to control heat stress on your cattle this summer. For more information, go to biozymeinc.com. Supply and demand report coming out on Wednesday here. And that is a very, very important report, and probably the most important grain report we've seen for a long time. It's going to shed some light on how much acreage was lent to corn and beans, and the comparison between the two with the increase in the price here over the last several months. It's also going to give us an idea of ending stockpiles, both old crop and the new crop. So that is going to give us a pretty good indicator, and it's likely to either drive or pull back on your market on corn and beans here for the next few months as we get through planting anyway. But according to your Chicago Board of Trade Futures on Tuesday, it appears maybe that a lot of people are thinking that we're still going to be short on old crop corn until we get to the new crop, and then we should be in a little bit better shape. But by the actions that we saw on Tuesday, it's looking like that they're thinking corn has stole a lot of acres from beans, because bean continued to soar on Tuesday. But that could be a whole different deal as we go forward. But look for that supply and demand report coming out on Wednesday. We see some states that are ending the federal unemployment aid, at least the federal part of it, because they can't get anybody to work. Now, they asked Mr. Magoo about it, and he has no conception of work or why anybody would go do it or not do it. So he had no idea what was going on, but did see several states, including Iowa and South Carolina, they just don't want the federal money to have to give out to people that don't want to work. And you talk to people all across the country, you can't find anybody to do anything. Help wanted signs are everywhere. They're giving cash sign-on bonuses, in restaurants and just everywhere. And especially skilled workers, working for contractors, building homes and stuff like that. As cheap as interest is, everybody's wanting to build homes and do things. Can't get anybody to work. I've talked to people like up in Iowa and saying that the restaurants, especially fast food chains, Subways and things like that, are just having to close because they can't find anybody to work in them. Well, why would you when you can sit on your ass and play video games or watch Netflix and make as much or more money than you would had you got up and went to work? But look at your weather around. It was awfully cool to start the week out here, and it was sure cool in Amarillo area on Tuesday afternoon. I was out at the sale and had a light run at Lone Star Stockyards at Wildorado, Texas, but pretty chilly, about 45 degrees, which that's a heck of a lot cooler than what you normally expect this time of year in the middle of the Texas Panhandle. Trying to rain, but kind of too cool to do it, just a little bit of mist in the air. Now you go down into central Texas, Ellison Carter said the drought's over in central Texas. Now they were getting pretty dry too, but man, I tell you what, a big rain system parked over central Texas and they are sopping wet now. So that's changed that a little bit. We had snow up in the Rockies. Of course, they'll take all of that they can get because they're going to need that as it melts later in the year and starts coming down. Eastern Corn Belt is wet. I've had some feeder flash gang member from the Eastern Corn Belt out in Ohio, and he says it's really wet where he is. Now you get to the extreme western part of the Corn Belt and then the northern plains over there, and it's terrible dry. And it's dry, west of the Rockies, and it's pretty spotty around. And I was looking at some of the comments on this report, and people are kind of down in the mouth a little bit because most of the comments were kind of negative, not only towards me, but just towards markets and conditions in general. And you can tell people are pretty much fed up with the dry conditions, the way that packers are abusing the markets and the down cattle market and the high grains and everything, and moods could certainly be better as we move forward. I saw on Twitter there was a lot of conversation about the outcome of the meeting of truce out there in Phoenix, and I've been talking about that pretty much for the last week and a half or so about the meeting they had in Phoenix. I gave you what I knew about it on our last visit, that people were very encouraged, that the groups, the representatives of the groups that were there, they found a whole lot more in common, and that they had agreement on that they hadn't, and what they had in differences, and they really felt excited about getting some things to go forward. They had a list of things that they thought they needed to address, and some of the actions that they wanted to do to start to address those things. And now each of those, there was four participants for each association that came to the meeting. They're going to take those back to the hierarchy in the association and make sure that they don't kind of conflict with policy that they have, and then we'll come back and should go forward. They're saying they're going to meet again. So we're just looking forward to that, and keep your ear to the ground. I would really doubt that American Farm Bureau Federation or National Farmers Union would have any problem with any of the things that they agreed upon to push forward with. I would also find it extremely hard to believe, or in fact I know that it wouldn't bother LMA, Livestock Marketing Association, or U.S. Cattlemen's Association to go forward with the plans that they agreed upon. So it's down to RCAF and NCBA. So we're not sure whether they'll get through them or not. You know, the staff in those two associations kind of rules with a lead hammer on those groups, and we'll see if they will allow them to go through with some fixes that they agreed upon with the other associations. So that is what we're looking at right now. They're going to make those decisions this week. Supposed to come out Monday with a joint press release statement on what they plan to do and how they're going to go forward. I think it could, I would assume your packers are probably figuring that the control that they have over NCBA will keep them from joining in with the other associations and going forward on any fix that would put a burr under the packers' blanket. But we don't know. I tell you what, it's about time for NCBA to save face. It's evident that there's 75% of a robust market deal with the triggers. That's already gone by the wayside. You know, they said they would get behind a fix, a regulatory or mandatory fix, once we've hit two major triggers within these 4 quarters of this year. Well, the first quarter they hit a major trigger. I believe they've already hit another one if they don't back off of it for the second quarter. But they would like, I'm sure, to wait till the end of the second quarter to do their analysis with all their paid off economists before they actually want to do something. Or they could just get behind, you know, what the group decided to do and push forward. I guarantee you, if they decided to do something, or if they decided to get behind one of these minimum mandated and negotiated cash bills, if they decided to get behind one of them and all these associations were in agreement about it, they could push the debate, push the vote, and get it pushed through Congress in no time. Congress is sitting back here, both senators and representatives are sitting back here saying, what do you guys want? We're willing to help you. What do you want us to do? Well, we'll do whatever you want us to do, but you guys got to get together. And this was the whole effort to do that. Now we're going to see if one group or two holds it up, or if we can go forward and get some fixes that will save this industry. The packers kind of know that they've gotten a little bit too cute on this. You know, it was one thing during the gouging and not being able to keep the plant workers in there during the worst of the COVID. This deal is just blatant monopoly, what they're doing right now. And in fact, your packers have pushed these box beef cutout values now to levels that they're not quite as high as they were during the Black Swan event, but in fact they're making more money because they're able to keep production up. Now we may not have the change speeds quite as fast as what we'd like, but it's right in there, ballpark. It's not like it was a year ago this time when they weren't able to keep the plants going full steam. They're making tons of money, and not that we don't want them to make money, but they're taking advantage of the consumer on one end, the producer and the feeder on the other, and they're keeping it all up. And when you have a monopolistic practices, unfair trade, you've got to go in there and get some kind of government help to fix it. It's embarrassing that we have to do it. It's the cattle feeders' fault. 40 years ago that they started in these agreements, and it was laziness and hoggishness from your bigger feeders that started this in the first place. They didn't want to have to haggle, with everybody else. Oh, we've got several feed yards. We feed, a lot more cattle in these little feedlots. We don't want to have to get down there in the dirt and the mud and haggle with you every week. We just want the high for the week. Can you just give us that, and then we'll promise you all of our cattle? That's how it started. And it just got worse and worse and worse and worse until we finally painted ourselves into a corner, and we have to get the government to bail us out, and we have to depend on these big associations that have lobbyists and have pull and have membership to get it done. It's embarrassing we've got to that point. But, thank you to you guys that did this 30, 40 years ago. It wasn't a very good decision at that time to give up your independence. How about your board on Tuesday? June live cattle futures up 40 cents at 118.62. August up $1.70 at 122.05. Go on forward from that on your back months of live cattle up 75 cents to up $1.60. Not too bad. How about feeder cattle? Our grains were indeed up on Tuesday, but not crazy high. And your feeder cattle act like they want to hang in there. Of course, they're on that pulley with grains, and it's hard for them to gain any ground whenever your grains are higher, but they're holding in there pretty darn good. May feeder cattle only down 12 cents on Tuesday at 135.32. August up 15 cents at 148.85. Go on the back months of your feeder cattle up 12 till you getting it down the line a ways, up 47 cents. Fat cattle, we did have some trade on Tuesday, and I think guys that sold wanted to take advantage of the higher board that we had on Monday, not necessarily on Tuesday, but they don't know what to do. They don't know whether to take advantage of a day when the board's decent or they'll hold out later in the week and try to get more money. Like I said earlier, your packers have been pretty cute. They put out charity bids last week, 118, 119. They gave a smidge more than that to start the week this week, and we've likely pretty much established our price. In the Northern Plains, it's going to be 120 live and 190 to 192 on a dress basis. But your Texas cash pool that Consolidated Beef Producers has been doing here, I mean, it's been a struggle. It's been a struggle to get people to put cattle in it, and it's been a struggle to keep it going. But the guys at Consolidated Beef Producers are determined. They had cash pool again on Tuesday there, had right around 300 head there, and they got a bid. Those are sealed bids. They got a top bid of $119.50. Well, that's more than we got last week in the Southern Plains. Wasn't quite as good as they were getting Tuesday morning in the Northern Plains, but they're shorter on market-ready supplies. But $119.50 got the cash pool in Texas. Other bids that were included and reported there was $118.85, which wasn't good enough to get it. And then they had that same bid that they had last week that actually got the cattle at $186 dressed FOB, which is, you don't see that all the time. But about some trade in the Northern Plains, Iowa sold 2,100 head at 120 live and 190 to 192. Nebraska about 4,000 head confirmed, and I think likely more than that as they were just kind of getting going early in the afternoon before the cutoff. But 120 live, 191 to 192.50 on a dress basis, and that's quite a bit better on a dress basis there, as we sold the most of our cattle last week at 188 and thereabout. How about your box beef cutout values? They just continue to climb. And I've told you guys 1,000 times, these are not negotiated prices. These are a price list that your packers put out, to your wholesale buyers, eventually your retailers, and then your end users. But it's kind of a price list, a menu. Here's what we want for these different cuts. How many of them would you like? But they just continue to raise the price on them. I mean, they manipulate the price on one end, and they actually dictate the price on the other. But choice cuts on Tuesday afternoon, 312.37 up 326. Select 296.34 up $2.58. Like I said before, packers are actually making more money now than they were in the gouging of the worst of the COVID, because they're able to keep production up. Your slaughter, in fact, was 230,000 through Tuesday. That's 5,000 less than last week, but 47,000 more than the same time a year ago. So let's talk about your feeder cattle market, your real-time index on DV auction. In the afternoon on Tuesday, I had something I wanted to do. I'll go out and do some crop touring and see what things are looking like in the country. But on Tuesday afternoon, 131.80, that was up $1.59. Big gains there with help from your Tuesday auctions. Of course, we had Kimball, South Dakota in there, and some other sales that dictate some pretty higher prices compared to your average. But let's talk about your sales on Tuesday. Ozarks Regional Stockyard in West Plains, Missouri, about 2,000 through the ring and 1,600 in their in-house video. In-house video working in Ozarks Regional Stockyard. They said most of the cattle, my buddy Dan told me, is steady to $5 higher on the bulkier cattle through the ring. Some of your peewee little bull calves and steers and heifers, $5 to $10 higher, with quite a bit of local demand for turnout, and they've been getting some rain down in there. It's the rocks. They're always a week away from a drought in south central Missouri there, just north of the Arkansas line. But that in-house video was pretty good. They had the stick out deal on the in-house video was 220 steers, weighed 610 pounds for $162. Wow. And then those Goodman cattle that I told you about on our last visit, he had like 1,100 head in there. The biggest slug of them, the steers, was 384 head, 860 pound steers for $129, and that's for May delivery. Let's talk about some of your stick out sales in other places. How about Kimball Livestock Exchange, Kimball, South Dakota? Market was higher, but the last sale that they had was mostly replacement stock, so didn't have a good comparison, but sure higher. I looked at your automated market report. They had over 1,050 head of 8-weight steers in Kimball, averaged 853 at 135.46. Over 500 head of 9-weight steers, averaged 933 at 127.47. So that wasn't too bad at all. You look at the report from Beaver County Stockyards in Beaver, Oklahoma, and that's up in the Panhandle there. Your best tested weights, which was on your feeder steers coming off of graze out wheat there, $2 to $6 higher for sure anyway, on about 1,700 head there. And you look at that report and you look at all the weights. Of course, most of them weren't well tested, but all the weights of feeder cattle were higher in Beaver, Oklahoma. The best quote that I saw anywhere on Tuesday, and indeed come out of Kimball Livestock Exchange, and your Zach Tran top quote for the day, 260 head, 877 pound steers in Kimball, bring $134. And that's your feeder flash for Wednesday.